Let's call this committee of the whole meeting for July 18, 2023 to order. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderman Yamas?
Here.
Alderwoman Garza?
Here.
Alderman Masiacos?
Present.
Alderman Donnell?
Here.
Alderman Franco?
Here.
Alderman Seville?
Here.
Alderwoman Smith?
Here.
Alderman Bug?
Here.
Alderwoman Bade?
Here.
Alderman Lash?
Present.
Alderman Warman?
Here.
And Mayor Irvin's present.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of July 11, 2023 committee of the whole meeting moved by Alderman Smith, second by Alderman Garza? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries by voice vote. Madam Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to offer public comment?
We do.
Will you please read the rules of public comment?
Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, all persons shall be permitted an opportunity to address public officials under the rules established and recorded by the council. Under our rules, any person may address the committee of the whole for up to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for all public comment. No person other than the timekeeper or the chair for the purpose of maintaining order may interrupt a person recognized for public comment during his or her comments. Members of the committee of the whole shall not engage with nor respond to a speaker during the time set aside for public comment. Staff is directed to follow up with members of the public with respect to any concerns raised during public comment within the scope of the city's authority following the adjournment of this meeting.
Will you please call the first person wishing to offer public comment?
Sandra Gonzalez.
Sandra Gonzalez? No Sandra Gonzalez is present. Will you please call the next speaker?
Nate Pickler.
Mr. Pickler, you have 3 minutes to speak, beginning now.
Thank you. I'm Nate Pickler. I live in Ward 5, and I'm here to remind you all of what's going on with the Factor 75 facility in my community. I have some data that I'd like you to look at. This chart shows air quality data at a home directly adjacent to the HelloFresh Factor 75 facility and a home over 500 feet away. These were taken simultaneously with 2 calibrated sensors lent to us by the United States EPA. As you can see, the home adjacent to the Factor 75 facility has frequent spikes up to 300 AQI over this 24-hour period. This other house, in orange, stays around 50 all day long. During this period, the resident of the house adjacent to the facility reported headaches, vibrations, nausea, and among other things that we are all experiencing because of this facility. I just don't want you guys to forget that this is going on. In addition to that, I would like to bring up some things that Factor stated during the special use permit application process. Factor says their operation is not expected to have an impact on surrounding communities. This is not the case, of course. They're affected by noise, light, odor, exhaust, vibrations, etc. Factor stated, based on our experience at our Burr Ridge facility, we do not produce noxious odors or generate any environmental hazards. So, their Burr Ridge facility is located in a business park over a quarter-mile away from the nearest house, with a forest-type area covering about 68,000 square feet between them. The Aurora facility is less than 150 feet from the nearest house, with a rundown fence and sparse trees in between. Factor says their kitchen and packaging operates from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday through Saturday. Poor air quality spikes and strong odors are frequently present outside of these hours. They stated all activities are very quiet and will not disturb the surrounding neighbors. Idling trucks and equipment making noise disrupt the neighbors and cause vibrations in their homes. They stated the nearby neighborhood is well protected from berms and from noise and other visual impacts. There is no protection that these houses have. Backyards are lit up at night from the lighting in the dock area, and the noise from the trucks and other equipment can be heard all day long. I wanted to bring this up so you guys know that this issue is going on. And we're going to keep reminding you and keep fighting to make sure something gets done about it. Thank you.
Call the next speaker.
Maria Manzo.
Ms. Manzo, you have 3 minutes to speak, beginning now.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here to speak on behalf of or in support of Resolution 230533 for the execution of the redevelopment agreement providing for a forgivable and non-forgivable loan to Lazaros RS Corp. Operating under La Quinta de los Reyes. I just want to say that La Quinta de los Reyes is not only a venue where families come together to celebrate important milestones, but they have also been serving the community through various objectives, like they've provided support for scholarships for the youth. They've provided in-kind donations to organizations that I've been a part of, like the Latina Health Festival, which was one of the events that I first started being a part of in the city of Aurora when I came to work here. And they have also been an employer to many families, and for long-term, including some of my own family. They provide long-term employees, so the employees that we've seen there have families to support. And I just wanted to say that they are an important part of the community. I hope you guys do support them for their redevelopment project. Thank you.
Call the next speaker.
Oscar Fregoso.
Oscar. You have 3 minutes to speak, beginning now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Oscar Fregoso. I am the president of the Duranguense Federation. I am here to speak in behalf of the La Quinta de los Reyes. I would like to say, this small business, be a successful or be in business for the last 20 years. And the Mexican community feel very, very proud about this business because it's coming to real bad situation. One is if you remember, the recession 12, 14 years ago. But this business is still in business because his team is like a family working together to be a successful. And in the last couple years, it's happened another thing, like this is the COVID. And the La Quinta de los Reyes is still in there, being a successful, working together with his workers, being like a team, working like a family. So I like to say now that La Quinta de los Reyes is asking you to support him, to keep in business and be more successful in this great community, giving back, taxes, giving back things for the community. So I would like to say La Quinta de los Reyes is one of the most best successful business, Mexican business in the Aurora community. And I would like to ask you to continue to support La Quinta de los Reyes. So thank you so much.
Call the next speaker.
Sandra Orozco.
So Roscoe, you have 3 minutes to speak, beginning now.
Okay, thanks. My name is Sandra, and I'm a mom of 3 daughters, and I've been a longtime resident of Aurora 5th Ward, right on Greenfield Drive. And my home is where I've created countless memories since 2005, which is since uncomfortably close to HelloFresh. It's frustrating and disappointing that despite standing before you, and despite numerous pleas to HelloFresh and the Alban and Franco, my family's living situation hasn't changed. The smell coming from the plant is unbearable. It sneaks past our 3 air purifiers. It finds its way into our vents, and it makes part of our own home free off limits. But it's more than just an awful smell. It's affecting our health. It's usually the picture healthy, but lately I've been feeling awful, suffering migraines, feeling dizzy, nauseous, and even throwing up. It's been so bad that I missed work and seriously thought going to the hospital. My girls have also been affected, my kids. A couple of weeks ago, the smell got so bad, it woke them up at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's not normal. And the noise from the plant is so loud. It makes our windows vibrate. You see, I'm here today, not only for myself, but on behalf of my neighbors who are also living in the shadow of this plant. We're doing everything we can, but we shouldn't have to think about permanently sealing our windows just to live comfortably in our own homes. I'm appealing to you, Mayor and Council members, because you're the ones that can make a difference. We need your help, and we need HelloFresh to take responsibility. We're relying on you to put our health and well-being in Aurora's families first, because we trusted you to look after us. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Madam Clerk, call the next speaker.
Jaime DePaulo.
Jaime, last name.
DiPaolo.
DePaulo. No Jaime. Go to the next speaker.
Brian Poole.
Brian Poole. Mr. Poole, you have 3 minutes to speak, beginning now.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm here to speak on behalf and support of the Resolution 230533, authorizing the execution of redevelopment agreement for La Quinta. As a business owner for 17 years in Ward 1, I've had the honor and privilege of working with this particular organization to help to promote its message to the city of Aurora. The word home means something to each one of us. That thought of home, when we hear that, we either think of a place, a smell, a food, or a sound. And for the past 17 years, I personally have been able to participate in a place that is where Aurora has become a second home to so many of our citizens. And this organization has not only supported its community, but it has provided different events like Los Reyes Magos, with the presentation of the gifts on Three Kings Day. And based off of what my recollection was from my home, I did not understand the importance and significance of this. But over the past 17 years, it has been an honor and a blessing on my end to see the importance of that organization and all that they give back to the community and to the residents of our communities, a piece of home. And that piece of home, to be able to make sure to pass along to the next generation and next generation, I think is an amazing thing. As a business owner, if we invest in people, people invest in the community. But I also believe when we invest in businesses, they invest in people and invest in the community as well. And I know of the great things and the generous things that this organization has already done to help the city of Aurora. They also have the event of Dia de los Niños, as well as countless other things with Fiestas Patrias, bringing that piece of home back. And I feel honored that I was actually able to learn and make that feel like kind of a piece of my home with my business in Aurora as well. So I just wanted to make a public comment in support of the resolution for the redevelopment agreement for La Quinta de los Reyes. I appreciate it.
Call the next speaker, Madam Clerk.
David Cannon.
You have 2 minutes to speak, beginning now.
Hello, council. Hello, mayor. Hello, people of Aurora. I just am here to speak on behalf of the people of the Greenfield community. A couple of them are not here to speak today. They're not feeling well or don't feel like they can speak in front of you about this issue because we've come time after time about it and have been just sort of ignored and pushed aside. You keep bringing in HelloFresh to explain, here's how we're going to fix things, here's how we're going to fix things, and it's a smokescreen. It's not moving things along as they should. The biggest issue is the air quality issue, and that is, like, HelloFresh has put that to the side completely. They're trying to address the other things like the light and the smell and the, putting a fence or a berm or whatever. But I think, the biggest issue is the air quality, and that's something they're ignoring entirely. I just want to come back also to the fact that the city, changed this from retail to a special retail zone that would allow HelloFresh to have this plant here. I think ordinarily you would go to a manufacturing zoning like an M1 or M2, which if you look at the zoning regulations, those specifically make you take care of negative impacts like sound, air, light, pollution, quality, things like that. And the special retail zoning sidesteps those things. So I just feel like the city made an error in that zoning, and I'd like them to address these things. I don't know if that, I feel like you need to talk to these people more and get to the bottom of this. And the people whose lives and homes are being ruined need to be compensated. They need to have, you should offer to buy their houses, honestly. Like at this point, if HelloFresh says they're going to spend $1 million fixing or remediating these things, the city is just as at fault as HelloFresh is, and I think should offer to purchase people's homes if they want out because they live 200 feet from a factory that's spewing noxious gas into the air and smoke, odor, vibration, those sorts of things. If this were happening 200 feet from your house, Mayor, I don't think you would allow it. So just please, any of you, please please pay attention to this, help us get this resolved. We want the jobs of this factory, sure, but like, we don't want our lives to be overturned by these negative impacts. So thank you so much.
Call the next speaker.
The final speaker is Bob Meeker.
Just for the record, I hate speaking in public.
Mr. Meeker, you have 2 minutes to speak now.
Okay, my name's Bob Meeker. My wife and I, Cindy, bought our first and only house 17 years ago on Shady Lane, which is in the Greenfield subdivision. It was a nice, quiet, clean area. Now we have to live with the dangerous annoyance of Factor 75, along with the stink of what they cook, the dangerous levels of diesel exhaust hanging in the air that infiltrates our house, which in turn causes us to have daily headaches, upset stomachs, and dizziness with little or no relief. And not to mention Orchard Road, the amount of traffic, semi-traffic, has tripled. 2 in the morning, trucks are jake braking in back of our house, waking us up. It's ridiculous. The diesel exhaust hangs in the air on a hot day, and this was long before the Canadian wildfires. I could go out there on outside my garage and just see it hanging in the air, and you could smell it. And it's terrible. Like Dave was saying, I met Dave once, but anyway, like Dave was saying, if you guys lived there, they wouldn't be there. You couldn't put up with it. The city has allowed our neighborhood to become a dangerous waste dumping ground for air and noise pollution. What happened to our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? I don't really expect anything to be done about it. I really don't. Because it's all about revenue. It's how much the city can get out of them. Thank you.
That concludes our public speaking. Let's go on to committee reports. Chairwoman Smith, can you give the Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee report, please?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. The Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee meeting was scheduled for July 12th, 2023. It was canceled. So that's all of the report that I have.
Chairman Franco, can you give the Finance Committee report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee met on July 13, 2023, and reviewed the following items. 23-0486, a resolution authorizing execution of a first amended agreement for provision of services at the City of Aurora's Financial Empowerment Center with the Neighborhood Project.
Consent.
This amended agreement will simplify payments through an hourly rate as opposed to itemized details, and will clarify the process for grants and depositing grant funds.
No objections, item go on consent.
Thank you. Next one is 23-0519, a resolution authorizing the city to accept the grant award of $192,779 from the State of Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, with the city to contribute $192,779 in matching funds to host Luminosity, a month-long celebration of light to be held from September 6, 2024 through October 5th, 2020.
Consent.
Consent.
No objections, item go on consent.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry, Alderman Bay.
I think there was a presentation for this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Councilman. You have a presentation. There we go. So this is just a little information about what these light art installations are. These festivals are all over the world. They're on 6 continents. It started in Europe in about 20 years ago, and throughout the United States about 10 years ago. They're huge tourist draws. This is an example of interactive projection mapping that would be outside during our final weekend in October. I've got 3 sample cities here. Blink, Cincinnati, it's a pretty similar size city to ours. Their 2019 attendance was 1.3 million. They're a population of 300,000. Baltimore, they did an interesting study for theirs. 92.3% of attendees said the event adds value to the region. I thought that was a real point of interest for us and changes the perception of Baltimore. And then a third example of small cities that have these lighted art installation festivals is Scottsdale, Arizona. This will be their 11th year doing this festival. All three of these cities use the festival to bring tourism to their downtown areas. 3 ways that we'll measure the impact of this festival is geofencing through Invest Aurora, an attendee survey, and then coming back to this near-field communication, this will be digital placking at the installation sites. So for those people who download an app which will cover some augmented reality and other, it'll be motivating you'll get something for downloading this app. When you pass the plaque, it will count unique numbers. So that'll be another way to see direct involvement. The dates will be the month of September, and then the final closing will be the first weekend in October. That's to balance the best of weather with the darkest skies we can get. This, depending on how it goes, what kind of attendance we get, the feedback we get, this could be an annual event for us. These are some proposed installation sites. So we're looking to highlight the area around Stolp Avenue and Water Street Mall. There's an arrow in the bottom right showing that if we have enough funding to add some kind of lighting, theft-proof lighting that connects River Edge Park to the downtown, that's another thing we would like to do for economic development. These are some samples of the kinds of installations that we will have. The first ones are interactive. So these are things that we would lease from a company. They come, they put them up. A month later, they take them down. This is our third video and the last one. This one is particularly interesting because it's an intervention that people sort of stumble upon, and it's a fake street lamp. So it's particularly appropriate for our history as the City of Lights. It records the shadow and then plays it a little bit later. So you might come across the shadow of the previous person or yourself later. Some other installations that are available to us are these light up seesaws, light up musical swings. And then the second kind of installation that we will have are static lighting installations. So these can be leased, they can be commissioned by local artists, and there's an option, if it's a best value for us, to purchase some of these minor lighting interventions. Some of the things we plan to do on the final weekend are a stage with live music, roving performers in that area, light-themed family activities, projection art. Those projections of animations will just be outside on that final weekend. Ribbon cuttings for all of the public art installations done in 2024, and then we encourage partnership events.
some partnership opportunities would be, for example, River Edge Park already does the Lantern Festival and, encouraging performance venues, restaurants, specials, getting involved with the pop-up galleries for First Fridays, that kind of thing. So, in summary, this will be for next fall. It's a month-long. The month-long lease is our best value for the large-scale interactive installations. This resolution is seeking to accept the DCO grant that we have been awarded already of $192,779. We already have $150,000 of that for the matching funds, which are the already approved sculpture for the sculpture park that we will be doing later this year, which will, per the grant guidelines, apply to this match, and the 2024 already approved mural decision package of $50,000. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Jen. Is there any other city in Illinois that has done this kind of program before?
Not exactly, no.
So we'll be the first ones.
Yes, so Chicago doesn't do anything quite like this, so no, to answer your
Martin
question.
Arboretum?
Sorry?
Martin Arboretum?
They do that for Christmas. It's not as interactive as this. Yeah.
And if you could share this presentation with us, we can take a look at it. It's very interesting.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
That's
Any other questions? No objections, go on consent.
Consent?
Next item on the agenda is 23-0529, a resolution authorizing the renewal of the line of credit in the amount of $10 million with Old Second National Bank for a one-year term expiring on June 30th, 2024. And I think
Consent.
Mr. Minnick, you want to just give a quick explanation?
Certainly. As Alderman Franco indicated, we do have actually two lines of credit that we utilize for short-term financing of city need, primarily contributions to economic development projects or land purchases when issuing bonds is not practical. We have a line of credit with Old Second National Bank in the amount of $10 million and a second line of credit with Fifth Third Bank in the amount of $15 million. The Old Second National Bank line of credit does need to be renewed. Currently, it has approximately a $6.7 million balance. We do plan to pay it down over the coming months with a combination of bond proceeds as well as repayments of various loans that we've made for economic development projects in the past. During the past year, we did in fact pay down $1.2 million on this particular line of credit. Staff recommends a one-year renewal, and the interest rate is based on the secured overnight financing rate, which is essentially a rate banks charge themselves to loan each other money overnight, plus 200 basis points. The rate on this line of credit right now is approximately 7%, and as part of the analysis that we're going to go through with the upcoming bond issuance, we're going to evaluate whether the lines of credit are indeed our most economic and best option for financing these short-term borrowing needs. And we'll be reporting back on that as we go through the bond issuance process, probably later in the fourth quarter of 2023. So there are no other significant changes to the terms, and staff would recommend approval of the line of credit in front of you this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, so are we getting a second line of credit to have 13 million, or is it just to keep this one open and we'll still have that $3 million?
It's just to keep this open. We are not adding a line of credit. We will maintain the two that were existing previously.
And you did say 7% interest rate, is that correct?
That is correct, yes. And that's happened as the Fed has increased the rates over the past year or so.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Consent.
No objections, item consent.
Thank you.
Next item is 23-0533, a resolution authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement providing for a forgivable and non-forgivable loan to Lazaro RS Corp., operating under the assumed business name of La Quinta de los Reyes, and I think Mr. Debo will be presenting on that.
Good afternoon. David Debo, Director of Economic Development in the Mayor's Office of Economic Development. Mr. Mayor, Alderman, Alderwomen, Mr. Chairman, we're here to request approval for the redevelopment agreement providing for a forgivable loan and a non-forgivable loan for La Quinta de los Reyes. Both loans or advances are for $550,000 each, for a total of $1.1 million. All these funds will be repaid to the city. These funds, together with a substantial investment by the owner, will enable for the construction of a 125-seat patio addition, essentially the size of a new restaurant, larger than most restaurants, a new structure, adjacent to the existing structure at 36 West New York Street. I know people are pretty familiar with what's going on a renewed New York Street, but just as a quick primer, I point to it over here. We've got, of course, La Quinta, and then with the casino moving, and while we're first in the very early stages of what would replace that site over there, understanding that a lot of that site is in the water, but there is a pad available. So you've got that site over there, thinking residential, and then, of course, we've got the parking, so there would be no needed parking over there. Coming up the street, you've got Enduro, which has been expanding pretty rapidly on their wholesale business especially, Amor Mio, which we spoke about last time, Alice's Corner, the Bolivian restaurant doing so well. The corner over there is that BB's Corner, which we control. On the other side of the street, Ballydoyle, if anybody hasn't been there recently, should take a look. It's been renovated beautifully. Where the old Decari space and Spizio El Pollo Hiro will be going in there, and of course the West Suburban Bank building, which now we control. So you could see what's going on right there on New York. Tonight's presentation, following this brief introduction, will be as follows. There'll be a short video presentation narrated by Ariana Urrutia, and then some historical and recent perspectives will be given by the owner Claudia Urrutia. And then we'll have a detailed look at the construction, and that's going to be done by Lane Allen, architect at Allen & Peppa, and then John Curley, our Chief Development Services Officer. I will come back and then review the numbers and take any questions that we have. Everybody here will be available to take any questions. With Claudia in the room, and so many of you who are so familiar with this restaurant, been such a big part of your lives, I'm going to leave it to others to talk about the restaurant and the iconic nature of this restaurant and what it means to everybody here in the room. But aside from the math that we will talk about and some of the due diligence that goes into a request like this, it's really important to understand who these people are and the character. I think we've all seen in the city and all over, it really turns out to be the character of the individual as well as the expertise. And the character here has been demonstrated both, for instance, during the time of the recession in 2008, where the restaurant stayed open, and of course more recently during COVID, where the restaurant not only stayed open but provided free meals and so on. So the character is something that we were really attracted to and decided to really dig in full bore, 20 years in existence. So not going to take too much more time. We're going to play that video, and then I'm going to ask Claudia to come up.
For the heart of Mexico, right here in Aurora, Illinois, at La Quinta de los Reyes. Hello, my name is Ariana. I've been working at La Quinta for over 10 years in many different roles. I oversee all business operation under the current ownership. La Quinta de Reyes opened their doors on October of 2004 in the downtown area on the corner of East New York Street and Broadway. La Quinta de Reyes is one of the first buildings to greet incoming traffic to the city of Aurora. Since 2006, La Quinta has supported a Latin and Christian heritage holiday called Los Reyes Magos. Los Reyes Magos are the three wise men, or three kings in English, who visited baby Jesus shortly after birth and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Celebrated annually on January 6th by La Quinta de Reyes, where free toys, Rosca de Reyes, and additional goodies are distributed to hundreds of children and families of the Aurora area. In the last 17 years,
La Quinta de Reyes have distributed nearly 50,000 toys with the support of local sponsors and partners. La Quinta will undergo an incredible transformation. This renovation will blow everyone away. Once the owner contract was lifted, expenses became manageable to prioritize structural development and renovations. The investment provided by the City of Aurora to La Quinta de Reyes will go towards demolishing the current patio and reconstructing a new patio that will offer year-round indoor and outdoor use. The funds will cover a new grease trap to minimize food particles, keep our city's airways clean, and reduce our carbon footprint. The current grease trap is decades old and no longer suitable for current city standards. The funding will also go towards one new steel stairway. This particular stairway will replace two existing stairways located in the patio that go up to the third floor of the building. This investment is crucial to our community. It will attract tourism to the area, and it will provide patrons and community members the ability to enjoy a modernized and aesthetically pleasing space all year round for generations to come. Celebrate your special moments, create lasting memories, and savor the joy of sharing great food with the ones you cherish most.
Good afternoon. I did get a little emotional. My name is Claudia Urrutia, owner of La Quinta de los Reyes. I am a businesswoman. How did I become a businesswoman? I inherited this quality from the women of my family. At 7 years old, I would sell milk candy cones, or otherwise called conos de leche. After that, I helped my aunts in Durango, Mexico, sell shoes to the nervy small towns. I realized not only got paid, but enjoy selling and interacting with others. As a matter of fact, they own properties and have a small restaurant of their own in my hometown in San Juan del Rio, Durango. Now, as a citizen of this beautiful country, I have experienced challenges, but I have learned to overcome them. All I know is that challenges always give you the opportunity to grow. After many endeavors and knowledge in different areas, I started my own business, Glenn's Boutique, which was going well. While doing that, I joined forces with La Quinta de los Reyes. As I was running both businesses, I realized I was spending more and more time at the restaurant. And I fell in love. It was another challenge I was excited to take on. With my background in fine arts, I was eager to work on the aesthetic and the ambience of the restaurant right away. I saw a great opportunity to grow and innovate La Quinta, and I began investing all of my resources to the business. I quickly realized the value and loyalty of our senior employees who have been with us for over 15 years. Is that so? Some of us are going all together having the same achaques. I understood how important it is to show appreciation and respect towards our staff. La Quinta also has many loyal clienteles that have supported us through the years, which we're very grateful for. As you know, La Quinta has withstood many hardships, one of the most recent ones being the global pandemic. Thanks to our big patio, we were able to accommodate CDC restricted guidelines, for example, maintaining 6 feet apart, having airflow. And we were the first business in Aurora to implement space heaters to stay in business during the winter of 2020. We never closed, only for a little bit on the uncertainty when they say there is a COVID pandemic. And next time when our governor closes again. But we were ready to keep going. During the pandemic, we focused on surviving and staying in business and be able to keep our long-time employees and their families on payroll. As I remember, this is special time of uncertainty. All we were doing was cleaning and painting and thinking how we were going to go about opening back with CDC regulations. I was very nervous. As we were cleaning one of the days, I looked at the front door. There is this car with the couple that came like 45 minutes away from us. I came out because they were looking to say hi. They asked me, we came to support. And I'm like, where are you coming from? Sandwich, Illinois. We have nothing else to do but drive right now. That was right in the pandemic. We've come here 5 times to hope to see if you were open. When are you guys going to open? We want you to support you. At that time, I told everybody, I went back to everybody and said, you guys ready? We're gonna do curbside. They look at me, it's like, yes, we are. This gave me the strength to continue fighting, and with that, I began to implement the delivery service such as Uber, GrabHub, and DoorDash. At times, we had in-house delivery methods. Then, thanks to a law passed in Illinois called Cocktails to Go, allowed us to sell alcoholic beverages for outside. That also helped us. I thank you for listening and hope to get your approval to begin this new project that I'm sure will make difference in our great downtown, not only as a renovated venue, but also definitely we need more employees. We're talking about 10 to 15 more. Thank you.
Consent? Yet?
Thanks, Mayor and City Council, for the opportunity. And thank you, Claudia and Ariana, for showing your passion for both the city of Aurora, our local community, our children, and your business as well. I wanted to, so I'm John Curley, Chief Development Services Officer. I wanted to highlight a few things about the challenge of this building and why it's an important building for the city to invest in. Claudia and La Quinta, through their longevity, through the recession and COVID has been mentioned, and their community involvement are a testament to their belief in Aurora. And their recent purchase of the building, they've only recently become owners of the building, despite the building having been there, the business having been there for 20 years. And the reinvestments that they're doing now and contemplating with this agreement demonstrates their desire to grow and meet the needs of our community. I wanted to talk a little bit about the challenges of the building. This building is a 1912 Tudor revival. It's now poised with their reinvestment to begin tackling the improvements that the city has long sought for this important building that greets visitors to our downtown from both the east and from the north. A bit of history here on what's called the Dillenberg block, actually, historically. In 92 and 93, Rollin' on the River opened in conjunction with the casino opening. Rolling on the River closed sometime in 95. There was another restaurant that tried to open there as well, was short-lived and closed within a year. Also in 95, Jesse James Saloon, and I should mention, Rolling on the River was in the space that La Quinta currently occupies minus the patio, so the western part of the building. One of the challenges about this building is it does not have a continuous first floor. It's interrupted by an archway, which makes a lot of the things we're talking about now a little more difficult. Grease traps, plumbing, accessibility, all the stuff that we would talk about in the plans. Jesse James Saloon started a remodeling project in 95 and never opened. They were remodeling the 3 storefronts that are on Broadway that have since been vacant. in 98, 99, Hoffman Restaurants, or the Snuggery, Hoffman Restaurant Group of the Snuggery, remodeled the western part of the building where Rolling on the River was, and they closed in 2001. And then steps in this restaurant group in 2004 and have lived through a lot of challenges themselves for 20 years. I wanted to talk a little bit about in addition to the challenges we've experienced in the past, I want to talk a little bit about the project itself. The project, while stated as a patio, is actually a pretty complex project. It's an indoor-outdoor convertible space that encloses the patio on the north side of the building. In the winter, it's going to be a heated four-season patio. Yet in the spring through the fall, it's a shady outdoor space with what I would call a louvered moonroof, actually, for the ambiance of an intimate dinner. Those louvers are operable, can keep people protected from rain, reduce some of the sun, or allow as much sun into the space as possible. I recently dined in a space like this in Libertyville in February, cold day in February, and enjoyed a meal without any winter gear on at all. It's perfectly comfortable and a really great environment and a really great expansion of the restaurant that I was in. So I wanted to touch on part of the purpose here again. We've talked many times to council and to the public about trying to capture more of our restaurant diners from the Paramount. Currently, we're capturing about a fifth of the current demand for restaurant dining for people who attend the Paramount shows, only a fifth. So expanding the dining capacity here was one of the main goals of this project. And we're also preparing for expanding our residential units downtown. In fact, there's more than 200 units immediately north of this project with the DAC development that's nearly ready to start. So as part of our desire to increase seating capacity in this location or in this business, this project, as David mentioned, would result in 125 seats, all in one large area, with 2 kitchens capable of quickly servicing surges from both the Paramount and from River Edge Park, or hosting larger events in that large space. As was shown on, I'll introduce Lane in a second. We'll talk a little bit more about the details. I did touch on in starting that this building acts as an important gateway from both the east and north into downtown. I liked a quote actually that David mentioned at Finance. From the north, this will act as kind of a living billboard at night. You'll see activity in this patio will be lit up and really call attention to entering our downtown from everyone that's visiting and or leaving River Edge Park. So I additionally wanted to touch on several facets, the fact that several facets of the remodeling are being required by the city to facilitate redevelopment in other parts of the building. As I mentioned, we've had some desire for additional uses in this building and filling some of the vacant spaces for a long time. The previous owner was not interested in pursuing those, and thankfully Claudia and her team are very interested in doing that now. Some of those items are that with the additional capacity for diners, we needed to increase the water service for the building in order to accommodate those additional diners and the plumbing fixtures that are required for them. In addition to that, we've extended the grease trap capacity and a grease line to the Broadway location so that a restaurant could expand into there, or other uses could be used on the Broadway facade so that we can get those activated. Also wanted to call to your attention, you might remember that the grease trap project was discussed here at council a little less than a year ago, and there was a small $25,000 grant provided for a much costlier project, but at the time we talked about the grease trap back then. I just wanted to remind you of that. So with that, I wanted to introduce Lane Allen, the architect for the project, and then go through a few slides that he's prepared with him to talk about some more detail on the project.
Thanks, John. That was very helpful. Presumably you have access to the slideshow. The video that we put together was also very illustrative of these, so hopefully that will in your mind, tie the two together. Lane Allen of Allen and Peppa Architects. Officially, I'm Allen and Peppa Architects Aurora Studio, and that's my partner is Allen Peppa Architects Elgin Studio. So it's kind of a nice, we do a lot of work throughout Kane County, and you may remember that I was the architect and business owner of the Holbert Mill across from the library. So there's a lot of passion going on in these presentations, and mine happens to be the surgical adaptive reuse of historic buildings. And so I tend to get into the weeds of the nuts and bolts of these buildings very quickly. But what leads me into it is the owner's vision, and I translate their vision into construction documents for people like Jason Sullivan of TW Construction to bid it competitively and get it constructed in a very detailed manner and properly orchestrating it. So there's a big spectrum of information that we're responsible for as architects. The drawings that I passed around we'll get into that. So this particular slide in the lower right is, you see the black and the white. So it shows the amount of demolition that we're doing, and as well as the new construction going on. So these are all three-dimensionally drafted drawings because the complexity of these drawings need that level of detail. The lower left is El Patio, which is our naming of this space. And it's funny because if you look up courtyard and, in Spanish, you get patio. So courtyards in the Mexican tradition are major important spaces for that culture. And so it's almost a foregone conclusion that this space would become even more important than what it is now. Conversely, it is an exit right now. An exit from the second floor, an exit from the first floor, an exit from the spaces adjacent. And so it took us a while to figure out how to untangle this and make it an independent space. And that's why we requested the easement and the steel stairs coming from the second floor. And it was not an easy thing to do. And you can see, you all know about the red staircases that are there, and we're extracting those, which gives us a nice, clean space. So next slide, please. So if you could focus on the floor plan in the upper right, you'll see that the existing space actually is like a donut. There's a kitchen in the middle of this. So the actual efficiency, other than the fact that all the seating is around with the windows looking out on the beautiful Fox River, it still lacks efficiency. Whereas the new space that we're doing is 125% larger, and therefore the efficiency that we'll get by adding this space is, as they say, more than double. Two heads are better than one, or whatever. So there's a small bar, so we get to facilitate that. And then the kitchen is down some stairs and in the middle of that donut, so there's a lot of service available. And the stage is gone. That can just be impromptu in the corner and doesn't take up a whole space. There's actually a staircase going down to the basement. We've resolved that code-wise. And so there's a lot of efficiency going on by having this floor plan. So I hope that gives you some sense of scale of what we're requesting. The night shot is this northerly billboard that has been referenced, and so lit up with the green space in front of it. It will be quite nice. And in the slideshow, you saw it go from day to night. So it really has a lot of depth and character. And go to the next slides, please. So these are some of the images. So we not only have it looks simple, but that's not the nature of architecture. The nature of architecture is to make things look simple, but to orchestrate it in the 16 divisions of work, to get it to be simple and And the original visionary here is Claudia and Jesus and Patio EG. Patio EG has turned into a subcontractor to TW Construction because their expertise are these exterior courtyards. So you can see in this a day, a night, and also the sun coming through the louvers. And here you're getting into the element of time and sun and shadow and things like that. So it'll be a very dynamic space. And I'll show you the louvers here in a second. Next, please. A very simple overview at larger scale so you can finally see it properly. You can see the bar on the right, and the mural is being restored, and a nice view of the river out the north because we don't have the clutter of the stairs. Next, please. Okay, so yeah, this is a good view. So so if John is sitting next to the window slides up. So now his elbow is reaching outside. So they're each one is operable, as in, hit a remote control and the windows slide upward all the way completely out of the way. So now you not only have the open louvers, you also have the air from the north. And of course, we all experienced in COVID, the more air, the better. So, but at the same time, the contractor and the detailing have really focused on how to shut this thing down. In the ceiling here, you can see some gaps in between the louvers. It's actually about 2 feet gap with a radiant heater. Radiant heater, the only thing it heats is the surface. Doesn't heat the air, it hits the surface. So you feel warm, your tables feel warm. It's really an interesting feeling to be under. You see it at tennis courts and things like that, but it is different than blowing heat on people. It heats the surface, so your table tends to be warm, and your tables and chairs, and it hits you and you feel warm. So it's a very unique experience. And again, TW has done lots of these. They're out of Milwaukee, but they do a lot of work in Chicago, Cicero, and Rosemont. Go to the next slide. So the team is Allen and Peppa Architects and T-Berg. I'm sure you all know John T-Berg. And Hedman Structural Engineers did the work for Patio EG because they're a design build company. And so this is their system. So they needed their own structural engineer. Next. The other teammates are Neville Engineering for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. This is a very surgical step. By the way, the civil engineer also handled the grease trap work. And up in the upper right, Patio EG also provided drawings. The reason why these drawings are so important, as a wise man once said, we invest in the drawings. The drawings give us the pathway to success, both in respect to pricing and construction and the craftsman, as well as meeting the needs of the owner and making sure that they're all good. To give you a sense of our trials and tribulations, there are many conditions in this building that are a bit creepy in terms of going down and finding where the water main is, and there's a couple different water mains, or being on the second and third floor, hence we're adding exit lights and EM lights, and it's an endless building. So for us to get let's call this the heart or the hearth of the building, to get this under control and allow the restaurant to leverage this heart, they can further develop, and we have drawings ready for TW. TW has been trying to get to pricing of this other piece. It's a kind of a yin and the yang. The yin is this courtyard and the current restaurant, and the yang is the Broadway, which are 3 storefronts, as well as the whole south building, I call it, and we've got 7 apartments designed with extremely beneficial help with the building department. Josh and Joyce did a really nice job trying to help me figure out how to efficiently develop 7 units in a 20-foot span of space. That's 150 feet long with correct exiting and an elevator. So we have the whole building figured out. And so this is a very important key to its success. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Were there any other presenters? Mr. Debo?
Jason, could you just stand up? So this is Jason Sullivan of TW Construction, and they, we did competitively bid it out. We've got lots of local tradesmen who are, represent the 16 divisions of work, and we are anxious to get started. They would like to get started by September 11th and be done by Christmas. To do that, we would need to pre-purchase some things, be under contract, pre-purchase as many things as possible before September, and get things, start getting things like the grease trap constructed. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lane. I'm just going to open it up for questions. I know that was.
Questions?
Any questions?
Alderman Masiacos. Sorry about that, brother.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question real quick. And I appreciate bringing the architect in and passing out these drawings. It's not something you typically see. But in the contract, it says see Exhibit C for land and drawings information, which is not in here. So I have a simple, it's a simple question. Who controls the strip of land where the steel staircase is going to go? It's like 18 foot wide. I looked in the drawings the architect just gave us. The city controls that land, and we've, if you recall, as part of the grease trap discussion I mentioned earlier, there's an easement that's been granted to this business owner with a license agreement to carry insurance for their use of the property. All right, so we still own that? Correct, city still owns it. They'll be responsible for the care and maintenance of the
Correct.
stair.
As part of the agreement, they're going to maintain those improvements, and there's concrete improvements, the stairs and the grease trap as well.
All right, thanks so much.
Yep.
We have a sidewalk going from Broadway all the way to the river with stairs going down. The grease trap is an incidental element of that because it's hidden. And so now we have another access point to the river.
Any other questions? Alderman Seville?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Lane, you had mentioned the presentation that you just gave us. We did not have that in our packet. If you could maybe work with staff and have them forwarded to us, that would be great.
Alex has it. So
great. Yeah, perfect. And then as John was going through his dissertation on all the previous restaurants that we used to have there, I think I've eaten at every one of them. And we were very excited when Rolling on the River opened up soon after the casino because we thought that was the beginning of our downtown renaissance. Of course it was, but it just took longer than we anticipated at the time. So I'm really happy that La Quinta has been there since 2004. Claudia, you and everyone else has done a superb job. I think this is a great redevelopment agreement and resolution. I've been in the outdoor space. I'm happy it's going to be year-round now as well. I think it's a wonderful space for our city, and I'm sure it's going to be beneficial for you and La Quinta as well. So I think this is a very good resolution the council can consider.
Alderman Lesh.
I don't know who this is to, but probably legal. If somebody's drinking at La Quinta and falls and injures themselves on the stairs that are our property, who's liable?
There's a lot of facts in that case that we would have to review. I can't answer the hypothetical. It depends on where on the property, was it open and notorious? So there's a lot of facts. As far as on the patio portion, with the liquor licensing, we do have certificate of insurance to have the city of Aurora as an additional insured. So that would cover the patio area.
Any other questions?
Consent?
No objections, I'm going to.
I'd like to put it on unfinished. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, that concludes the finance report.
All right, thank you. Let's go on to the next report. Vice Chair Donnell, can you give the Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee report, please?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. The Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee met on July 11th, 2023 to review the following items. Item 23-0507, resolution approving the purchase of 12 United Shield ballistic shields and accessories from MES Lawman supply of Deer Creek, Illinois, in the amount of $73,606.15. These 12 shields are replacements for those shields that are out of date and a routine purchase for the police department each year.
No objections, I'd
Consent.
And that's all for Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee,
Thank
Mayor.
you very much. Chairwoman Garza, can you give the Infrastructure and Technology Committee report, please?
Yes, Mayor. We got together on July 10. The first item is 23-0510, a resolution award the Root Street Water Main Replacement Project located in Ward 1 to Stokes Excavating Inc. to the bid amount of $455,560.00.
Consent.
Okay. Next item is 23-0513, a resolution to award the Mountain Street, McClure Road, and Austin Avenue Water Main Replacement Project located in Ward 1 to Gerardi Sewer and Water Company in the bid amount of $978,173.00.
No objections, I'd go on consent.
Next item, 23-0514, a resolution to award the Lake Street Crossing Water Main Replacement Project located in Ward 4 to Stokes Excavating Inc. to the bid amount of $111,591.00.
Consent.
No objections, I'd go on consent.
23-0522, a resolution requesting ratification for the emergency replacement of video management server for Signtel Solutions LLC, 2021 Noriola Road, Aurora, Illinois, 6502, in the amount of $75,304.82.
Consent.
No objections.
Mayor, I'd like to hold that unfinished, thank you.
Unfinished on the final item, 23-0522.
Okay. They conclude the meeting, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Chairman Ron Warman, can you give the Rules, Administration, and Procedure Committee report, please?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. The Rules Administration and the Procedure Committee was scheduled to meet July 11th on 2023. However, there were no items on the agenda, therefore the meeting was canceled.
Thank you, sir. That concludes committee reports. Let's go on to new business. Madam Clerk, read the first item under new business.
23-0544, an ordinance ratifying all actions taken by the Committee of the Whole and the City Council during their meetings of July 11th, 2023.
Council.
Corporation Council did report this to the PAC, and that PAC did thank him for doing that because that is something that is not required, and discuss the ratification approach that we have presented today on this matter. The PAC agreed that
Just so we're clear, just make everyone aware what PAC is.
Public Access Counselor, that is where we go for open meeting Act violations. So that's a state of Illinois body. The counselor agreed with the ratification approach and combined with the steps to make sure the doors remain open, which has been done. He believed that our proposed approach was fine to cure any potential violations of the Open Meeting Act. He also advised Corporation Council that he had not received any complaints regarding any Open Meetings Act violation. So based on that, this was drafted to ratify what was done at the last meeting. And if
Just give a little background and make it clear, we had both our COW and council meeting in the same day, on a day normally where we would normally only have COW, which is from 5 to about 6:30. But because we added city council, it went the next hour, and evidently the doors locked automatically. And we were made aware of that. Based on that, Corporation Council reached out to PAC just to make sure that we did not violate any terms of our
Open
Meetings Act, OMA. And this was the information provided.
Yes, and then just to clarify, a vote to ratify the council's actions from that night is the same as, it's not the same as a vote in favor of the item. It is just confirming what occurred at that meeting. So that makes the meeting with no violations.
Alderman Yamas?
Would this just go on consent agenda? Is that what we'd be
It
doing
could.
today, like anything else?
It could if there was not an objection.
Well, I'll say consent then.
Questions?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Buck?
Thank you, Ms. Lang. I want to thank, although he's not here, Mr. Veenstra, who we discussed this matter when I brought it to his attention. It was brought to my attention by some residents last week. So, Ms. Lang, I don't know if you know the answer, because like I said, I was corresponding with Mr. Veenstra. To correct one thing, of course, July 11th was actually a normal city council meeting day. We moved the COW to that. So my question is, going back, what time was the doors being locked on the first and third Tuesday? And what time were the doors being locked on the second and fourth Tuesday?
I did not have any correspondence on that, so I do not know. I know Mr. Veenstra did have a conversation with Mr. Birchall regarding the doors being locked. I know now going forward, I believe it is going to be at a later hour than it was previously.
Okay, thank you. Do we have the times, the new times, first and third Tuesday, second and fourth Tuesday?
Yes, and we can share that through the chief of staff, the times.
Okay. So this, of course, a COW night, meeting beginning at 5. My understanding that it was possibly going to lock at 8, but I didn't know if that was just for COW nights, if that's the time for council nights, so we'll get that. So yeah, if definitely, if we could find out the times that they were locking. So even if the door was locking at 6:30, or that one particular day, and like I said, we moved because of 4th of July, so there could have been extenuating circumstances. But going back, if the door was locking at 6:30 on council evenings, possibly, we need to see if that was happening.
I don't know that we do. Let me tell you why. Because there's been no complaint that it was happening. Now, if there was a complaint and there was an issue we need to address, then we could talk about it. But right now, we don't actually have a victim or any aggrieved individual. What I think is important is that we recognize a mistake was made and that we correct it going forward, which it is. I mean, we could be going back the last 10 years to find out what time the door locked and to call around and see if anybody tried to get in and couldn't get in. But at this point, I think as a body, we should make sure that we ensure this oversight does not happen into the future.
Okay, yeah, I don't think we need to go back and find out if someone was aggrieved at 6:31 some night. We just need to see what the process was, what the process is.
What end? For what purpose?
Well, to better our process going into the future. If somebody
future is going to make sure that it's open a lot longer, and we're going to find out exactly what those hours are.
Okay.
Consent.
Oh, definitely going unfinished.
Unfinished. Any other questions before we put this on unfinished?
Yeah, may I,
Go ahead.
please? I can't sit on this. To our knowledge, this is the first time this has ever happened, correct?
Right.
To all of our
Never had a
knowledge.
complaint.
You've been here the longest, have you ever seen this happen? First time. Okay, there's a mistake that's been made, we have to rectify it, we have to move on. We don't have to make a mountain out of a molehill. I think we need to, we've identified that there was an error, no one did it, it's a system, and we have to make sure it doesn't happen again. I don't think that we have to sit here and continue to talk over something that really wasn't the fault of anyone. We know the mistake was made, we need to move on. That's why I believe it should go on consent, but, that's my opinion.
Unfinished. Right. All right, unfinished. Let's move on to next item. We do the next item under new business.
230548, a resolution granting the advice and consent of the City Council to the mayor's designation of chairperson of the Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee.
Consent.
With no objection, this item will go on consent. So just to be clear, that means Alderman Seville will be stepping into shoes of the late Alderman Shakita Hart Burns to run her committee, as he's been on the council even longer than Shakita was, and I'm sure you would have been the person she chose to take the reins from her. So congratulations, brother. And there will be a memo, so that's going on consent with no objection. And just also, just to be clear, there will be another memo going around as well. I believe Corporation Council will be preparing that tomorrow that will be appointing Alderman Patty Smith as the additional floor leader in Alderman Chiquita Hart Burns' place. So it'll be both Patty Smith and Emmanuel Yamas as the floor leaders. All right. That concludes new business. There is no mayor's report for this evening, but our own Ward 5 Alderman Franco has some Alderman's Corner stuff to talk about today.
I do, and it's because of Alderman Donnell, it's low tech. So we're going backwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So it'll be brief. Let's start with the boundaries of the 5th Ward, which are basically Randall Road to the east, Sugar Grove to the west, I-88 to the north, and Prairie to the south. There are a few areas south of Prairie and north of I-88, which are also the ward. But with the redistricting, 3 blocks west of AU and 2 blocks north of AU are now in the 4th Ward instead of the 5th Ward. So that was a little bit of a change. As we do each year, we had a cleanup day on April 29th. That is where half the ward can bring items they want to get rid of to various sites, and Groot hauls them away. It's a big success every year. And I do separate the ward in half every year. Galena is the north-south boundary, so north of Galena goes one year and south of Galena goes the next year. We also had a shred event on Saturday, June 24th, sponsored by the 5th Ward, 4th Ward, and 6th Wards. That was from 8 until noon at School District 129 parking lot, which is a little bit different than normal because we usually have Jefferson, but Jefferson has some construction. And I do want to talk about School District 129 because recently I went to the Wisner Family Center. They had an open house. And I don't know how you're familiar with this, but it was kind of like an old shop classes that we used to go to when we were in high school. It was pretty neat. So the kids are not only taught how to use their hands, but they are actually programming the machines, how to perform cuts and different things with that. So there's a little bit more technology involved than you would think. It's pretty high tech. And actually they had, the day before I got there, they had like a recruiting session. So, where colleges or people come to, recruit you for whatever going forward. They're actually recruiting kids to work with their hands in these various jobs. So it's really kind of a neat thing. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Harvard University did a study a number of years ago, and they said, we need more of these in the country. So kudos to School District 129 for putting that together. It's a pretty neat operation. If you guys ever have a chance to go over there, it's a high-tech shop class. So it's pretty enlightening. We had a ribbon cutting recently for an Oriental grocery store in West Plaza called Yangon. Unique products they have not seen in conventional grocery stores. And then across the street, the grocery store El Paso, which we approved a number of years ago, which they make the homemade tortillas. There's one on the east side. They're finally getting going. It took them a little while to get going with their work inside, but they should be open fairly soon. Orchard Valley's Golf Course Restaurant is open again for dinner with a new chef. The history of that is many years ago when they first opened up, great restaurant, kind of fell by the wayside. And unfortunately, park districts and golf course management companies don't do a very good job with restaurants, so they got a new chef in there. I did go there. The food is pretty darn good now, so I would suggest going there. It's much better than it used to be, so that's a good thing for the west side. On the east side of Orchard Road, just south of I-88, is a Toyota plant. They have about 30 acres of cornfield that are interested in selling. Staff and I have worked with KDOT, King County Department of Transportation, to allow for a right-in, right-out on Orchard Road, and a left turn lane as you proceed from the north to gain entrance to that area. The reason we did this is to make it marketable for commercial uses. So our goal for that area is to make it very similar to Freedom Drive in Naperville. You get right off the expressway, you have bars and restaurants there. So going forward, that's kind of what our goal is out there. Our national night out for the 5th Ward will be at Washington Middle School from 5 to 7 on the 1st. And finally, and I'll just wrap this up, I've been advocating for Sound Bear in Orchard Road for about 6 years. I'm happy to say that the engineering portion will be taking place this year, actually very soon. Hopefully shovels in the ground in 2024. Money has been a hurdle for this, as we all know with these kind of projects. But we have commitments from our state legislatures, the city, the county, and our IGA with the county calls for a 50-50 share of the costs with us to replace the fence that's there now. It's a kind of a crummy fence there. And I've been setting aside ward funds for a number of years now, so I've actually accumulated $400,000 in ward funds for this project and have committed to pay an extra $50,000 per year for the next 4 years Estimated cost for this project initially was about 2.5 million. That was like 6 years ago. But as we know, the cost goes up. It's now about 3 million. But I think we're right where we need to be with the money. So I'm very happy about that. It'll be a nice addition on the west side. And that concludes the Fifth Ward report. Did we break a record for time? I hope so.
Quick and easy. Just
Quick and easy.
to clarify, the restaurant at Orchard Valley, you can go there. It's open to the public. You don't necessarily have to be playing golf.
Yes, it's open to the public. They still have the bar food in there too, and but the restaurant area is open again. The only thing I would say that they need to fix up a little bit is very generic. It's kind of like white walls and stuff. The food is good, but the decor and the ambiance, it still needs a little work, but it's really a good meal. I'm very happy about that, because before it was kind of very interesting.
Thank you for your report, sir. Appreciate it. I assume next time will be Alderman Seville. Next month, I believe. There is no need for a closed session. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Motion made by Alderman Franco, seconded by Alderman Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.